Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or evening, wherever your day finds you. Welcome to the AWS Partner Webinar Series, where our topic today will cover managing your enterprise digital assets with assetSERV on the AWS Cloud. My name is Sherry Sullivan. I'm your host today, and I'm with the AWS Partner Marketing team here in Seattle. And just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. I'd like to remind folks that you can submit your questions anytime during this webinar, and we'll take some time at the close to address your questions as time allows. I'd also like to let you know that we are recording today's session, and we'll make this content available on our AWS SlideShare channel as well as our YouTube channel. We've got a great lineup for you today. We're pleased to partner with our premier consulting partner, Cognizant, today. We're joined by Jitin Agarwal, who's the CEO and venture leader with assetSERV and Cognizant, as well as Mark Ramberg, who's our AWS Media Strategist and Business Development Manager. Mark and Jit will share with you some best practices and solutions to managing your digital and marketing assets on AWS. So without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to you, Mark.
Great, thank you, Sherry. Let's jump to the next slide here. So again, my name is Mark Ramberg, and I'm responsible for our activity in the media industry. So let's do a quick rundown of what we're going to cover today in my section, and then I will be handing it over to Jit to follow up on the Cognizant side, talking about assetSERV. So really what I want to cover today is giving you a background and laying the groundwork for what Amazon Web Services is. Amazon Web Services is the underlying infrastructure that the assetSERV application is built on, so I want to make sure that everybody has an understanding of that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that people are doing using AWS in the digital media and digital advertising, digital marketing space. So just to give a quick background, so today, again, we're talking about Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services is one of the three main groups within Amazon, the Amazon.com retail side, as well as we've got Amazon's seller services business. Amazon Web Services is a different group within Amazon. But we're often asked the question, how did Amazon get into cloud computing? So Amazon was really good at providing an immense selection of products and shipping those products to customers efficiently, but behind the online capability lies years of experience in providing technical services to the business that ensures our online stores are secure, fast, always available, and capable of meeting huge seasonal demand. So over 10 years ago, the technical teams that are supporting our Amazon.com retail side were moving from providing software and hardware capabilities to a service-oriented approach. So that's packaging things in an easy-to-consume way so that deployments by parts of the business were easier, faster, and more scalable. As Amazon opened up its internal services to third-party sellers, we published simple web services such as our catalog search, and it became very apparent quickly that developers were hungry for more and that Amazon had developed significant technical know-how that could be packaged for others to use. So we asked ourselves, what if we could package everything we do and offer it to others over the web? What if other businesses could leverage the scale and reach of Amazon.com? So in 2006, Amazon Web Services was born. And our mission was clear, to enable businesses to develop and developers to use web services to create scalable, sophisticated applications. It's interesting to note that what we call web services is now morphed into a more common term, the cloud. So Amazon Web Services is and always has been distinct and individual organization within Amazon. And as such, I'm going to take a moment just to kind of dispel an urban myth. So people often ask, is AWS excess capacity of servers running for Amazon.com? Or, come Christmas time when Amazon.com is undergoing seasonal spike and load, Amazon doesn't reclaim the computing resources to finalize its orders. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses running on Amazon Web Services, ranging in size from the smallest startup to multinational companies. So indeed, Amazon.com also uses Amazon Web Services, and it is a strategic business for Amazon. So to give you an idea of the scale that Amazon Web Services operates at, even though AWS is only 6 or 7 years old, every day we add the equivalent server capacity to run Amazon.com when it was a $2.7 billion business. And that was roughly around 2003, back when Amazon had about 7,800 employees. So here's a slide that has some logos from some of the most popular internet businesses. So you see things on here like Instagram and Pinterest and Netflix. The interesting thing about these businesses, all these logos on this slide, is that many of these businesses, the thing they have in common is that they would not have been able to grow at the rate that they've been able to grow without having an elastic infrastructure behind them, like Amazon Web Services. They would have had to spend a lot of time, procuring servers, hardware, racking it, dealing with all that. But also, it's more than just it's more than just internet businesses. It's enterprise businesses as well. So here's some more logos showing companies like Samsung and the New York Times and Hitachi and others. So we're definitely, as well as in the internet business space, we're also serving many enterprise customers, and also got a number of government agencies. So you can see some of the logos on here, between NASA and the Department of Education and others. So wanted to do a little quick slide just on what some of the analysts are saying about us. So you can see there's 3 different analysts here, the 451 group, Gartner, and Forrester. And you can see, with Gartner and Forrester, we're up in what typically Gartner calls the Magic Quadrant. One of the interesting things that I've noticed, we had that same graph for 2011. This is the 2012 version here, but if you look at the 2011 version versus the 2012 version, it's basically the same players within that chart. But what you'll see is that Amazon Web Services actually extends the distance between where it is in that Magic Quadrant and the kind of grouping of the others that are more towards the center. So we're not only in that Magic Quadrant, but we're pulling away in many cases. So I want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about what utility computing is. So to help you understand why Amazon Web Services and cloud computing are changing IT delivery, a nice comparison to make is that of a utility like electricity. So when electricity was discovered, businesses would generate their own using steam generators to power factories. When electricity was brought together under a national system of supply, it was no longer necessary for everyone to generate their own and buy and maintain their generators. You could simply just tap into a grid and use whatever you wanted, whatever you needed, paying only for what you did use. And be assured that electricity you consumed was consistent and always available. So utility computing brings those same benefits to the delivery of IT infrastructure, which is really the factories of many businesses today. By taking these services delivered from traditional data centers and wrapping them all in a consistent programming interface or an API. Then those services that are normally expensive to manage or difficult to use become available on demand in a uniform and available way and paid for only what you use, just like electricity. So that's what AWS does. It takes away the hard work of providing infrastructure IT services and makes them available to anyone on a pay-as-you-go basis. So I want to spend a little bit of time just talking about our global infrastructure so you get a chance to see what our footprint is. So just like an electricity grid where you'd not want to wire every factory to the same power station, the AWS infrastructure is global with multiple regions around the world from which services are available. This means you have control over things like where your applications run, where your data is stored, and where best to serve your customers from. So as you can see on this map, there are 9 regions currently spanning most areas of the world. Within regions, each region is also split into what we call availability zones, so making highly available applications possible from within a region. You can kind of think of an availability zone as a grouping of potentially multiple data centers, multiple physical data centers. And then the whole thing is supported by a number of edge locations for our content delivery network called CloudFront. And that places content that can be served to your customers at the fastest possible response times closer to your customers. So this diagram is a pretty detailed eye chart. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but basically what this is showing is the technology stack and the services that we provide. So at the very bottom layer, you see that AWS global infrastructure. Right above that is the regions and availability zone and edge locations that I just spoke about. On top of that, we've got our foundational services, things like compute and storage and networking. Above that are application services, things like CloudFront and notification services and messaging services, as well as application level SDKs and language support, things like that. Above that are all of the deployment and management services, so things like a web-based console or access and identity management services, things like that. And then you build your applications on top of that infrastructure. And of course, all this functionality is available through a web console, so whether you want to drive the cloud by a click of a mouse or call an API, power's at your disposal. All of our services are designed and written to be first and foremost exposed via web services APIs, and then the web console functionality is built on top of those web services APIs. So there's nothing magic between the web console and the service. It's actually running on the same web services APIs that are exposed to everybody for use. So over time, the pace of innovation has been pretty intense. Since the very early days of 2007, year over year, we've added more and more services to help customers deliver these world-class applications. So you can see here that the number of new services and or features each year has significantly increased. And those numbers aren't cumulative. That's each year how many services or features that we introduced into the market. So last year, this slide is a little bit out of date. It actually ended up being 159 new features or services added in 2012, which is, if you think about that, that's about, every other day of the year we were launching a new feature or service. So very aggressive about getting functionality out to customers. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about some of the things that people are using AWS for in the digital marketing space. So generally we've got people doing kind of three different things. Things related to ad serving infrastructure, so the actual ad servers themselves can run on AWS. People have run ad exchanges, demand-side platforms, supply-side platforms, as well as data management platforms. All that can be run on AWS, and people are running it on AWS. People are also using AWS for interactive campaigns and microsites, so things like product websites, social networking campaigns, contests, things like that. And then on the back end, typically you need to measure the performance of these campaigns. And so using AWS for high-performance computing and big data around ad analytics and ad server log processing and business intelligence is really a great use of AWS. This is a slide, I talk to companies throughout the media industry, and in general, these are the things that come up over and over again. These are the needs that they have. And I can spend a lot of time on each one of these, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly go through them. But typically what people ask is, security. How secure is my data going to be up in the cloud? What can Amazon do to make sure that I can secure my content? We've got lots of things in place there. One of the things that we did for the media industry recently was to work with the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA, to make sure that AWS infrastructure was aligned with the MPAA content security best practices. Now, while not everybody cares about the MPAA best practices, it signals the market that AWS infrastructure can be used to secure content at very high levels. So MPAA content, think of that as pre-release Hollywood blockbuster movies in raw pre-theatrical format, very valuable content for people. People often want to talk about, I've got a lot of content, how do I ingest that and transfer it into your cloud? And we've got a number of solutions, both from AWS and partners to do that. And then that leads right into the storage side of things. There's big content. People don't typically talk about using the cloud for media for, when they're using, one file that they want to put up on their website. They're talking about large libraries of content that they need to manage and store, and it's big content. The scalable compute resources, same story there. People want to process files, whether that's transcoding them or doing other things to them at scale. So you need to be able to scale that infrastructure out. The support for the standard delivery formats. I often put this one on there in the context of content delivery, but really AWS is a little bit under the hood of the formats. We're agnostic and we support all formats. Kind of jumping to the next bullet there, low latency content delivery. I mentioned that, but we do have our CloudFront Content Delivery Network, which is a worldwide network of 39 edge locations that really can speed up your content delivery to end users, give it a great experience for them, but it also takes a lot of load off of the origin servers. Analytics and reporting. It's typically the case where if you're delivering content, you want to know where it's going, how well it's been delivered, run all these types of analytics and reports on it. So it's very easy to do that. We have services directly from AWS, things like Elastic MapReduce, which is a managed Hadoop service, or a number of partner solutions as well. And then, I think one of the most important things is our partner and solutions ecosystem. AWS, as I mentioned, oftentimes is what's under the hood or the guy behind the curtain. We can't be successful unless our partners are successful. And that's really paramount to our story, and that's why we partner with great companies like Cognizant, and they have awesome solutions like their assetSERV solution that you're going to hear about in a minute. Just in a quick summary, and then I'll hand it over to Jit. So AWS really provides a secure, elastically scalable global infrastructure with a pay-as-you-go utility model. And really, a lot of people are trusting AWS to meet their needs in the media and digital asset management marketplace. Everything from the infrastructure side, solutions, partner ecosystem, it's all there. So I've put a link there for how do you get started. You can go up to our website at aws.amazon.com, or I've also got my email address there, mramberg@amazon.com, and feel free to reach out to me. So with that, I will hand it over to Jit.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I wanted to talk about assetSERV on the AWS platform and exactly how we're able to really drive digital asset management on the cloud. If you think about the challenge that our customers face today, it's really, how do they leverage their content globally while they promote and protect their brand? How are you going to do that? How are you going to take your content that is perhaps distributed all over the globe or perhaps intended for distribution consumption all over the globe, manage it successfully, manage it in this digitally complex world? So let's talk a little bit about the challenges that our customers are facing and really where we came up with this product and this solution. And it is definitely a product from Cognizant. So really, if you look at it, there's been an unparalleled explosion of enterprise digital assets. If you think about it for a second, Mark just shared with us that Amazon turns up an infrastructure every day equivalent to what they had fully online in 2003. All that infrastructure supports all of these digital assets that are going online today. In an organization, there's sales assets, marketing assets, human resource assets. There's different divisions in an enterprise, different geographies, different languages. There's different types of assets in an enterprise. There's image content, video content, documents, PowerPoints, logos. And then finally, all of this content is utilized in different ways on the internet, in media, in advertising, sales, marketing materials. Some examples show how an enterprise in 40 months could see a 1,320% increase of assets from a couple 100,000 to over 1 million. So clearly there's a huge explosion in the enterprise and digital assets, and we're seeing this with all of our customers today. When this explosion happens, there's a problem. Essentially, how do I control my costs? I have spiraling costs to really manage all of this content. How do I collaborate? I'm now working with partners across the globe in different agencies, different divisions, and how do I really do that in a successful way? How do I do all of that in a short time to market, being able to get out in front of the competition and succeed in the marketplace? And then finally, I have so many different processes and systems. How do I unify all that to make it a very succinct challenge that I don't have to deal with many processes and many systems? if you take the idea that the enterprise is struggling with all of this explosion of digital assets and these challenges, and you now amplify it to say, well, the chief marketing officer, they've got this challenge of working within this context. You've got hundreds of thousands or millions of customers that you're working with in a B2B or a B2C capacity. There'll be millions of internet transactions, and 15% is going to be digital information as part of the cloud. And how is a marketing officer, a CMO, able to deal with that, work with that, especially given some of their complex challenges that they have today, which is utilizing the spend, increasing revenues. We're in an environment where budgets are tight, regardless of the success of the organization. They have to increase their speed to market, of course. They need to leverage mobile. As we know, it's a huge piece of the growing piece of the consumption of content today. They need to be able to attract and retain the best talent and resources, and then really manage their budgets from onshore, offshore, and make a global delivery model, an approach that says, I'm going to be able to deliver my solution for my enterprise as a sales and marketing executive across all these channels, across all these geographies, and in all these regions. How am I going to successfully do that? Well, we came up with an approach that we think solves that problem, and that's assetSERV. assetSERV is a cloud-based, enterprise-scale digital asset management product, and we also have business process services involved in it. What we've done is combine the infrastructure, the applications, and the business process support that can scale up for enterprise end-to-end, and it's on the cloud. We've combined best-of-breed products, we're optimizing the digital asset spend, and we're creating an unparalleled digital asset management experience. When you take that cloud-based approach to digital asset management, you essentially solve some of those critical challenges that the enterprise and the chief marketing officer is facing. For example, you're now reducing costs. How am I doing that? Well, I've shifted away from CAPEX. It's an OPEX cost. I don't have startup costs because the infrastructure is already there. I don't have to buy servers, commission them, and install them on site. We've also simplified collaboration. How do we do that? Well, it's cloud-based. So any partner, any customer, any vendor, anyone that's part of your network can now use the system without requiring them to have an LDAP directory entry in order to give them access to your system. How do we make it faster time to market? Well, by eliminating a lot of the upfront headaches associated with putting a digital asset management system in place, you're essentially making an organization's time to market that much faster. And finally, with the single source of truth, which is what assetSERV represents for the enterprise, you've now made a unified system with a unified process that enables the enterprise to succeed with their objectives, with their goals of making their digital assets that much more effective, that much more available, and that much more successful for their enterprise. So what is assetSERV? Let's get under the hood just a little bit. And I'll talk more about it, and I'll show you a demo in a few minutes so you can actually see it, feel it, and touch it. So assetSERV is, as I said, a cloud-based solution. We've got the infrastructure layer, an application layer, business processes, and support. So let's talk about the infrastructure. I think we're all aware that Amazon is our infrastructure. It's providing the network, the database, the storage, all of the hosting. Our applications, we've taken several best-of-breed products in the digital asset management space, in workflow, in content distribution, and to really create a best-of-breed solution. Now, these individual technologies and products also continue on their roadmaps, evolving and metastasizing in the marketplace based on evolution. And that's the beauty of assetSERV. You get the benefit of the core underlying technologies in one unified interface. And wrapped around that is our support organization. Cognizant is obviously one of the largest SIs in the world, and we have a huge support infrastructure that enables us to give on-demand and by the drip or by the drink support, and also business processes. We have the ability to help an organization with their metadata tagging, ingest, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of different opportunities and several clients that have used us for that. So if you really take a look at what we can do, you want to really say then, okay, why this? Why this cloud-based solution? And what's the benefit to me versus an on-premise solution or something else? So let's do a little bit of a comparison. If you look at assetSERV's value proposition in the CAPEX versus OPEX, you can see that if you had an on-premise solution, it's a significant upfront investment, but then there's also the ongoing cost of maintenance, license, support, and service. and that's the large, thick blue line or the dark blue line. If you take a look at assetSERV, you don't have that same upfront capital investment, and so really what you have is just a ramp up. But because of our operational efficiencies, because of our shared infrastructure model, you're able to really see that even at that level, you're never going to see a situation where our cost structure is going to be larger than what an on-site implementation is going to be. In addition, we have a declining model. As the number of seats that you consume, the cost of each of those seats obviously goes down. That's the dark blue line. In addition, because of the collaborative nature, the cloud-based approach, the ability to have all of your partners, all of your vendors, all of the consumers and contributors of the content of your digital assets, sales and marketing or other assets, since all of them can now be part of the same ecosystem, part of the same enterprise application, you see the light blue line that goes up, and that's really the network effect or the Metcalfe effect of having all of those partners, all of those people on the system at the same time, being able to leverage the assets, contribute their assets, and really reutilize them in a successful way end to end. And that really is the benefit of assetSERV in an enterprise and why you want to take a look at implementing it enterprise-wide. Let's talk about another benefit. Not only do you have a cost saving, CAPEX versus OPEX, not only do you have the network effect of more users, more collaboration, and more penetration, adoption of the system, you also have the time effect. Because assetSERV doesn't require that upfront investment and setup of 12 to 18 months to build a system go live or on-premise, we can see a system from assetSERV coming online for a customer in 12 to 18 weeks, often less, and sometimes more, but you're going from months to weeks. So there's a huge time compression. So that whole time to market that we were talking about is absolutely reflected here. Finally, if you look at a cost basis in terms of what does it cost me, and in the total dollars investment for assetSERV, for say a 3 or a 5 year TCV, is 1/2 to 1/3 the cost of what it would be for an on-premise solution incorporating all the hardware, the licensing, and the support required to get that system live. So from a cost-benefit analysis, really any way you cut it, assetSERV definitely gives you a competitive advantage in the marketplace to succeed for digital asset management. Now the question might be, okay, you convinced me that you're cloud-based, you've got a good platform, it's cost-effective, but what do I use it for? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. The first use case is brand management that we've seen. Now, there's many use cases. Digital assets in the enterprise, remember, are not just sales and marketing collateral. They're HR. They're legal. Other industries have it for their production content, like if you're in the media and entertainment industry. So digital assets is really a very broad category. I'm really just focusing on a couple of specific areas because I have a limited time for demo, and I really want to give you a good view as to what we can do in one particular area. The use cases definitely extend beyond the 2 or 3 that I'm going to show you here. So please bear that in mind. The first use case is brand management. So if you're thinking about a brand manager or the chief marketing officer is thinking about his brand management organization, they want to manage campaigns through the life cycle of campaign management or their total end-to-end. I'm going to start the campaign. I'm going to then kick it off with the agency. I'm going to then make the creative, and I'm going to take that, put it into market, and then I potentially will have some localization of that creative, distribution to other geographies. Potentially I'll get some sort of review and then have to say, okay, I'm done with that campaign. Now I want to then retire it and start a new campaign. So if you look at it from a brand management perspective, you can see how a sales and marketing organization, a brand manager, can then take that effort and enable it end-to-end in assetSERV. And I'll actually walk you through a demo of how we do that. The next type of use that we're seeing in the marketplace is closed-loop marketing. So a closed-loop marketing is really taking the material to the next level and saying, I've got a campaign. I want to really work with the sales and Salesforce to ensure I can get it in market. So how do I do that? How do I create it, design it, digitize it, distribute it, make it available for my sales and folks so they can pitch it to the customer, get maybe some localization, and then get them feedback so that I'm going to now go through and revise the concept based on the information I see coming back from the salespeople. The last use case scenario that I was going to briefly cover is outbound marketing. How do we help an agency or a sales and marketing organization or an enterprise really do a good job of getting the material out to market? And this is really creating the material, making it available, distributing it locally, localizing it, and then for consumption with the rest of the marketplace. Lastly, okay, so now I got the use cases. I understand. Now, give me an idea of a couple of places where you've implemented this today. Customers that you have on, it's not vaporware, right? Well, the answer is very simply no. It's not vaporware. We have customers in the automotive sector, one in particular, that we have 17,000 users and 500,000 assets. We have consumer goods customers where we're doing brand books and brand management, life sciences customer where they're having sales collateral creation, that closed loop marketing. And then media and entertainment customers where we're helping them with their publication of magazines worldwide. So with this kind of setup, I wanted to take you real quick to a demo of assetSERV. And I am going to do a screen share. And when I do that, you will probably have a momentary pause as it switches over to the new system. So give me 1 second. I got to make sure that that happens correctly. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play here. And I believe that you should be able to see the home page. Mark, or can you confirm for me, Sherry?
Yes, you're good, Jed.
Great, thank you. Just making sure before I start that everybody's with me. So here you see the home page of the marketing manager for Cognizant. We've actually created a demo here where our own marketing managers use the system, and we're using that environment as our demo environment. So you've got their tasks, what's new, some information they have from consumers, the competition, state of the business, how are they doing overall, brand assets and equity initiatives and advertising, and then some team and meeting type information they've got. And this is their home page. So I'll take you real quick through the what's new page. This is a dynamically generated page. And it really shows the campaigns that we're running at Cognizant and really what they're all about. And then in particular, I'll drill down in the amazing engineering area that we've got to kind of talk about our assets. And these are all, again, dynamically generated off of internal websites that have content. And as that content gets refreshed, we're able then to update it accordingly in this site. So it's an asset management system that actually serves as a portal to our internal content for our sales and marketing executives and our sales and marketing organization. So I want to take you real quick to the site itself, not just the little page to introduce everything. So this is where you would be able to take a look at your digital assets. In the center here you have the digital assets that are part of campaigns. I'll show you a quick download in a minute. And on the left-hand side, you've got facets that you can use to search for a particular material, a particular piece of collateral. And up here, down here, you've got the ability to add these assets to carts, to do downloads. You've got some color search capabilities. And over here, you've got an interesting little feature we've added, which is asset expiration. So if you want to see when my assets are going to expire in, say, this time frame, I just click on that, and then I click on that again. And you notice what's happening is over here in the center, the pane, you're seeing these assets are already expired or they're going to be expired. So we're really highlighting as you go through which assets expire in which time frame. So that's a good way to keep track of assets that are going to be on the horizon for expiration so you can manage the life cycle of the asset. And then finally down below, we have the most downloaded assets. This is what gives a view as to what's being consumed by our enterprise, by our organization. It helps the marketing folks understand the value of their content as they create it. Now, if I wanted to look for a particular asset, let's say that I have something that's a Moss campaign. This was a Cognizant campaign with Microsoft under the Moss umbrella. I could actually do that. Just type in Moss, do a quick search, and then go ahead and drag that asset into my quick download, and then initiate a quick download. Now, this isn't your standard download, or as I like to say, this isn't your father's download. This is utilizing a technology set from Signiant, and we're actually utilizing their component to enable our download in the system. Now, this technology then really allows us to accelerate and guarantee download for the customer. I'm going to pick a destination folder here, and in this case, I'll probably just pick my home desktop to facilitate. And then, give me 1 second, let me do that. And then we click download. Now, with Signiant and with that environment, second. Let me grab desktop here. With the Signiant environment, you're guaranteeing the ability to have the download in a way that ensures delivery, which is critical if you're going to deliver something to a very large distributed environment. And look at how quickly that happened. 1 second. And at the end of the day, at 38.6 kilobytes per second. So at the end of the day, Signiant really helps us ensure that the assets come down in a guaranteed fashion, in a way that once it's a fire and forget for download. Whether you pause it, you take over time, overnight, whatever you need to do, that capability is intense and really allows you to make sure that you're doing the job that you need to do in the time frame you need to do it in. So it really facilitates that. I'm going to go ahead and clear out the search and look at all of the assets, and maybe even go back to my home page and start an actual a campaign. Why don't we do that? So if I look here, I've got my assets and my ability to start my campaigns. I will start a new campaign. I'm going to go ahead and grab this asset and drop it in here. I'm going to go ahead and drop this other asset in here. Now, the usage scenario here quite simply would be that a brand manager is starting a campaign for a new effort for Amazon, a new marketing campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and click Launch here. And when I do that, I may have to sign into my Appian system. I don't. Okay, great. So we're using it on the back end, Appian, to help drive the overall effort from a workflow system. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see here the campaign. I'm in the initiate stage. I've got the create modify stage, which is the next one, then a review, and then an approve. This is a workflow that we put together in the workflow system for assetSERV. And at the end of the day, you can modify this workflow. You can add as many steps or take out as many steps to this workflow as you'd like. As much metadata as you want to put in here, you can. So I'll just go ahead and say test campaign for a demo. Okay. And go ahead and put a date in here. Let's just pick the 28th. And then, sure, these are new assets. And then, yeah, we got all the user types. Sure, why not? It's images, yep. Geography, North America. Sounds good. Languages, U.S. That sounds good. So I could always pick out the languages, but why? And then here you can actually preview. If I clicked on this preview, now if I hit preview, it's going to actually launch up that asset, so you'll be able to see it in the preview window. There it is. It's coming up, and you'll be able to say, okay, I want to see more specifics behind the asset, get a larger image, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how you can preview it within the assetSERV environment. And now that I've got it here, I'm going to put some notes in for the creative person. Please make a brochure with these assets. And so the next step is to go ahead and send it off to the creative person. So I'm going to send it, it'll confirm, I absolutely want to do it, and I'm good to go. So then I can go back in here and say, okay, I'm still the marketing manager. And I'm going to switch over, if you will, for a moment, and I'm going to be now the creative person. I'm going to go ahead and log in as the creative and per user and see what happens when I log in. So I log in, and I'm now the creative user, so this might be the ad agency or the partner or some internal creative folks that were working with me. And I see right here I have a task. That's the task that was sent to me. I can view the details of it. So I'm going to go ahead and view the details. And when I do that, what's going to come up is the actual task that has been created by the marketing manager. You notice that we're at the create modify step. You see that it's the test campaign for the Amazon demo, what I already had entered. Now I've got to actually accept this task because I've got to say, hey, I'm taking responsibility for it. There might be more than one creative user in the system, so you want to make sure that you accept it. You can go ahead and take a look at it and say, okay, yeah, these are the assets, and again, I can go ahead and preview them if I want to take a preview and say, okay, yeah, that is what I expected. All right, cool. That's what I'm thinking, and I take a look at it and say, okay, you know what? Maybe I want to attach an asset because I really want to show them, hey, this is what I'm thinking and based on what you were thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and click Attach Asset and do a quick search for that Moss asset that I had done earlier so I can show that one in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and type Moss in here, and that asset will come up. I'll go ahead and attach assets. I'll drop it there, and then I'm just going to click Attach. So we click Attach. And once I click attach, it'll go ahead and process. Oh, I got to click it. One second. Okay. So once you attach the asset, give it a second, it'll process in the back end. Then you're able to then go ahead and attach it into the system and then move on into the actual assets themselves. Go ahead and enter in your comment. Here is what I sent along to you, and then go ahead and send it in for review. And that's going to then make it available to the next user down the food chain. So then the marketing manager will be able to then go back into his queue and take a look at it and say, okay, here's what I have going on my side, so that he can look at it from the marketing manager's point of view, which, will then say, okay, this is the system, this is where I'm at in terms of what they're seeing. So they're able to then go into their view and address it from there. So that's how you might manage a campaign end to end. You see the approval message that will come through here. You go ahead and approve it and say, this is approved. Go ahead and send it out. And once it's approved, then you would be able to say, okay, let's look for all the approved assets, see what's out there in the approved universe, and there you go. The 2 assets that were sent through the system plus the Moz campaign that was the approved asset I had just approved. So that's a really end-to-end look at assetSERV that utilizes the ability to distribute a file using the Signia system, the ability to workflow using Appian, and then the DAM tool overall. And that's a quick demo of assetSERV. I think at this point, Sherry, I'll turn it back over to you to take a look and see if we have any questions.
Terrific. Thank you, Jit, and thanks for the great overview of assetSERV, and thank you, Mark, for the great overview on the AWS perspective. Folks, if you've joined kind of midstream, we invite you to submit your questions using the wizard tool in your browser, and we have a few questions teed up. We've got a few minutes to cover off. So, Jit, I'm going to point this question back to you. Gentleman is asking if does assetSERV or can it replace it's a ZNet web native? Are you familiar with that platform?
I'm not sure that I am. What was the question? If it can replace?
Yeah, the question is, can it replace ZNet? It's spelled Z-I-N-E-T. Web native.
Zynet. Z-I-N-E-T?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah, okay, Zynet, or maybe X-I-N-E-T, actually, I think is the way it's spelled. So, yes, the short answer is that it absolutely can be, it can replace Zynet. It has the ability to do that in its end-to-end platform components, absolutely. And the way you would do that is, again, because it's cloud-based, your enterprise would take the browser-based solution and be able to implement it enterprise-wide. We'd set up the metadata model in assetSERV and then take any legacy assets and port them over, and then you would be ready to go on assetSERV. And Zynet could then be sunsetted out of the enterprise. Okay,
great. The next question is along the lines of, can assetSERV preview .swf files?
Yes, Swift files or .swf files are really nothing more than stitched together JPEGs, and so we have the ability to preview SWFs in the platform. There is some pre-processing that we need to do in order to be able to do that, but we have that in place to be able to make that available for users, to be able to see what's in that SWF on a thumbnail and a preview basis.
Okay. Terrific. The next question is along the line, can you speak a little bit more about metadata capabilities on assetSERV, kind of what features and capabilities does it have?
Sure, absolutely. Folks, metadata is the heart of our platform and assetSERV. So the flexibilities and capabilities there, are near endless. It starts with the definition of the metadata model for the enterprise. Oftentimes that is quite a challenging exercise when you have different groups, different geographies, different platforms, different content types. But anyways, we've been through that with many, many years with many clients, and so we have expertise there to help the enterprise with that. Once you have that metadata model defined, then you can actually tag all of that onto the asset, and that really drives things like user access or security, which groups get to see the content when in the life cycle of a piece of content, and when not. And that's really what's driven by it. In addition, the utilization, the downstream usage of the content is oftentimes driven by metadata. So once I know that an asset is of a variety that a downstream system is looking for, maybe a WCM, a web content management system, or a publishing system, you're actually able to push the content down to that downstream system from assetSERV. Again, the way we position it, the way it really is in the enterprise is the single source of truth for the assets of an enterprise, or the digital assets. And so that's really where assetSERV shines, in the ability to leverage metadata to drive usage to assets, to drive the utilization of assets, and really to make it the robust system that helps an enterprise succeed.
Okay, great. Next question, Jit, back to you. This person is asking if they can, it's more of a question around file size limitations, but their question specifically is, can I upload a large file more than 10 gigs?
Yes, absolutely.
Talk about size capacity.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I could have also showed you, I believe I showed you the download with Signiant, but we also have upload working as well, where I can go ahead and grab very large files off of my system and upload them via Signiant in a way that's really, really dramatically faster and guaranteed to arrive, which, as you can imagine with the large file, that's a concern, which is will my connection time out? Will my network be able to handle it? What can I do? And so that's really why we've built in that best-of-breed product for delivery guarantee, so that you can take very large files, move them around very quickly, and then even pull them down very quickly.
Okay, great. Folks, we've got a lot of questions coming in, so we'll try to get through as many of these as we can, and if time does not allow, we'll follow up with you directly. Next question, Jit, I'll point this back to you, but can assetSERV integrate with a campaign management tool such as Unica?
Sure, that's a very good question. So we actually have a very robust model around assetSERV in terms of a wrapper, an API, if you will, that allows us to integrate with many systems downstream, upstream. Unica is one that we've seen in certain industries, and we have worked out APIs that allow us to integrate with that. The way that we find it works best is if the content exists in assetSERV and then it's packaged up and then served out to a Unica or another downstream system. The other ways that we've seen it is perhaps there's a WIP, a work in progress type system. So they'll develop all the content in the WIP model, and then they'll serve it up to assetSERV as final content for distribution and dissemination through the enterprise. So there's a couple of different ways that we've integrated with systems like that, and it really depends on the particular usage that the enterprise has, how deeply the systems are embedded, how well they're utilized to determine which step we kind of would fit in best.
Okay, great. We have a couple similar questions along the lines of maybe you could explain assetSERV. The question is it a fully custom product, or is it based on another sort of underlying digital asset management product? Is it also that, well, maybe you can just speak to sort of the under the hood, if you will.
Sure. So the short answer is assetSERV is not completely customized for every user or every enterprise. We have a standard product in the marketplace. And so at the end of the day, we have a platform that represents our technology. Now, for each individual customer, what we have is not multi-tenant. Each of our customers is single-tenant, so their data, their UI, their infrastructure, their metadata model, everything, all of that remains theirs, remains exclusive from every other customer that we have. Data sharing is not possible because the instances in our implementation are single tenant. So there's no issue of your assets ever getting exposed to anyone outside of your enterprise, other than those that you choose at your own desire. In terms of the underlying platform, I had mentioned that assetSERV has 3 or 4 technology stacks that it's really built on. One of them is Amazon. The second one is Signiant. The third one is Appian, and the fourth one is MediaBeacon. So we have a number of different technology stacks that comprise our overall platform. But to be clear, the value add is pulling them all together, giving you an integrated view into the universe, being able to have on top of all of that a single source, which is assetSERV. So you have our customers like to say they have a single throat to choke. I like to say we have a single source you can go to for any problems or troubles you may have, and that's us. And then on top of that, the business process services that really extend to an enterprise. A lot of enterprises, maybe potentially also in sales and marketing, may not have an infrastructure to support digital asset management. For example, who's going to ingest all those thousands, maybe millions of legacy assets? Who's going to tag them? Who's really going to be able to help make that system useful? Oftentimes we'll provide those services for our customers on a per-drink basis to help manage that process end to end.
Great. Thanks, Jit.
Yep.
Another question along the lines of, can you describe the ability of assetSERV to link to a single asset, such as a photo, to multiple, like InDesign files that may use that photo?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually have, although it didn't have time to demo it here, we actually have a plugin that we're working with within the InDesign platform that one of our core technology providers has supplied us with, and that really allows us to be able to take an asset that is in assetSERV and then take that same asset and drop it into an InDesign, or be in InDesign and call up that asset from assetSERV and be able to leverage it in that InDesign file. Now, when that InDesign file is, or perhaps when that asset is modified in assetSERV, or when the asset is modified in InDesign, we have the ability to push and pull that asset back and forth so that you actually get the latest version of that asset. So the use case might be, I have 15 or 20 assets in assetSERV. I go to an InDesign file, I pull some of them down, like a logo as an example, and I may have that in 5 or 10 different InDesign files. And then, of course, as the enterprise does, it changes its logo time to time. So then you would be able to go to those InDesign files and be able to see that that logo is not up to date, have it download the latest version, and replace it. And it would be a very simple and integrated activity in that use case between InDesign and assetSERV.
Great. You might have touched on this during your talking points, Jit, but could you also just refresh folks on, does assetSERV support WIP and integration with other designer tools, like, for example, Adobe Photoshop, InDesign that you just mentioned, Illustrator? Can you speak to kind of the platform's capabilities?
Sure, absolutely. So it absolutely integrates with those systems and those creative tool suites, especially the Adobe suite, on a couple of levels. It integrates with them on a metadata level, in that we are fully utilizing the XMP metadata tagging and architecture, which is obviously native to the Adobe Creative Suite since Adobe started XMP. And so at the end of the day, we have that level of integration at the most fundamental level. The next step up, if you look at it, is integration with workflow. Obviously, the creative design tools are the best place to do the creative work. No other tool does it quite as well. That's why they have such a hammerlock on the market. So the way we work with them is through workflow, in that you can take an asset, create it in the suite, move it up into assetSERV, modify it, go down to a group of people for review and feedback, and then turn around and make any changes in the creative product, in the Creative Suite product, and put it back up, and then turn around and make it available broadly for distribution to sales and marketing, or potentially to localization and language changes down the road. So it's an absolute end-to-end integration for the lifecycle of a digital asset, from concept to creation, then to finalization and distribution. Great.
Another question. This person might have joined a little bit late, but the question is, is assetSERV offered on the cloud? And that's what we've been talking about today, that it runs on top of AWS. But
yep.
They'd like to understand a little bit more about, how it leverages kind of an IS model like AWS, and maybe speak to that a little more broadly. How it runs on AWS.
Yeah, so okay, sure. I can talk about how it runs on AWS. So what we leverage within the Amazon universe is obviously there are a couple of things. First is the S3 storage network, in terms of being able to keep all that content, terabytes of information for our customers, secure, highly available, and in a way that is, as Mark mentioned earlier, dynamically grows. So you're only paying for the kind of storage that you use or need. The alternative would be to buy 50 terabytes of storage and pay for a huge RAID disk array on site somewhere, whether or not you use it. Because when you need it, you're not going to be able to get it on the drop of a dime. That's one of the benefits of the AWS platform that we take full advantage of. The second thing that we really take advantage of is that the very elastic cloud capability, the ability to have DR and support and be able to move from availability zone to availability zone to ensure that we have a always-on type model utilizing their utility analogy. So not only are they the utility service, but we're the always-on. We make sure that we take advantage of their platform to have minimal downtime for our customers in the event of any kind of DR scenario or some other type of disaster situation where we have to really pull in the stops and make it happen. And we really utilize the Amazon infrastructure to do that. The last area that we really take advantage of is their distributed network, the ability for them to have that worldwide footprint. Since our customers are global in nature, we really take advantage of Amazon's global footprint to ensure that the content is as close as it can be to the customers, which minimizes the kind of network, internet, shall we say, overhead that a customer might have to face. They're not trying to pull from Hong Kong, in one client's case, all the way to a data center in the East Coast in Virginia. So we're able to leverage the Amazon infrastructure to do that as well. The other option, of course, would be for us to set up our own data centers worldwide and do that. And why, when we have Amazon that does it for us?
All right, good point. So we've got time, folks, for just a couple more questions here. I'm going to jump back to more of a kind of a technical question, Jit, but what kind of customization, scripting support does assetSERV have? The person asked, can we set up actions or downloads related to steps to take on with other assets?
Yes. So when we go through each of the client engagements to really bring on a customer, not only do we focus on things like the metadata model and focus on things like the security model and focus on things like the historical assets and where they're coming from, et cetera, we also focus on what specific processes or what specific business needs do you have or utilization or use cases are you going to use it for? Is it the brand marketing? Is it for closed-loop marketing? Is it e-detailing? Is it content publication? We have the magazine publisher. So it really depends on what it is that you're going to be using it for. And when we go through that exercise, we will absolutely build in functionality or capability, leveraging JavaScripts or other scripts that are necessary in order to make that a streamlined end-to-end process for our customers. Now, thankfully, the platform is very robust. So we have the ability with the workflow engine to really make some streamlined and robust workflows with the distribution mechanism to ensure delivery to remote geographies that may not have good internet connections or may not have always-on internet connections. And then finally, the core platform from an asset management standpoint to metadata stamp, to move things around, to tag it, to make sure that the content is really, and the process is really custom to the enterprise.
Okay, great. Another last question we'll take, but does the user interface support localization of UI elements?
Absolutely. One of the key components of the platform is the ability to change the languages that are available there. We have 5 or 6 languages that were really out of the box. We have particular customers who have asked for languages like Chinese, where we've actually implemented that in. Now, obviously, you have to remember the customization will not extend to the metadata itself. That would have to be put in that language in order for it to be reflected on the asset. But in terms of the UI and elements like the menu bars, the tasks, the various buttons, and things that are within the confines of our ability to manage, to localize, we have localized those elements.
Terrific. Well, folks, we're out of time. I'd like to thank Jit, you for presenting today a great overview of assetSERV. Folks, feel free. We've put some resources up to go learn more, connect with Cognizant folks, connect with AWS. I'd like to invite you to just take a brief moment, give us some feedback on this webinar. We try to improve them. And Jit, thank you, and Mark, thank you for your time today, and thank you for attending today.